These are real horror stories of demonic encounters that will leave you speechless. True accounts from people who went through things so bizarre, it's hard to believe they actually happened. Like the story you're about to hear, where a spiritual retreat turned into a living nightmare, when a girl was supposedly possessed by something no one could explain. But before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any terrifying stories we've got coming your way. The scent of burning incense still makes me shudder to this day. I was 19 years old, and like any good Catholic family girl, I attended a convent school. That year, the spiritual retreat hit harder than ever. 3 days of prayers, hymns, and masses, all organized by the nuns with that strictness only an old nun knows how to impose. I actually liked it, you know. It was a moment of peace, of feeling something greater. But what happened at that retreat? It wasn't peace. It was pure terror. Father Michael had been specially invited to guide us. A tall man with a deep voice, the kind who seems authoritative even when whispering. We gathered in the main hall, a huge place with colorful stained glass windows that let the sunlight in, casting red and blue patches on the floor. It seemed sacred, until Madison arrived. Madison was the girl everyone noticed. Popular, beautiful, the type who knew how to draw attention. But that day, something about her was off. She sat at the back, quiet, which was strange because Madison was never quiet. Then, in the middle of the prayer, I heard a noise. A creaking sound, like someone was dragging their nails on the wooden bench. When I looked, it was her, Madison. But it wasn't Madison anymore. Her face was twisted as if something inside was trying to get out. Her lips stretched into a smile that was beyond human. Her eyes... God, her eyes seemed to have grown, too black, too deep. And her hair, always impeccable, now fluttered as if an invisible wind was blowing just for her. I felt a chill down my spine, the kind of ice that comes from a place you didn't even know existed inside you. Father Michael stopped in the middle of reading the Bible. He felt it too. Everyone did. The air grew heavy, as if someone had sucked all the oxygen out of the room. Madison, or whatever was using her body, slowly stood up. And when she opened her mouth, the voice that came out wasn't hers. It was something deeper, hoarse, as if two people were speaking at the same time. "Do you think you can ignore me?" The nuns froze. Some girls started to cry. I couldn't move. I just kept watching as that thing that wasn't Madison advanced towards the priest. Her nails. They weren't nails. They were long, curved, almost claws, scratching the wooden floor with a sound that echoed in my head. Father Michael tried to stay calm, holding the crucifix in front of him, but you could see the fear in his eyes. "In the name of Jesus Christ, identify yourself," he shouted, and then came the laughter. A laugh that came in layers, a woman's voice mixed with something much, much older. "Agatha, my name is Agatha." I didn't know who Agatha was, but from the expressions on the older nuns' faces, they did. And that was worse than anything my imagination could come up with. Before anyone could react, Madison, Agatha, jumped. It wasn't a human jump. It was fast, violent, as if something had thrown her against the priest. The nuns screamed, some girls ran, but others, like me, were paralyzed. I saw her claws tearing through the air, the priest stepping back, and then... that's when the lights started to flicker. And I realized we weren't alone in that room anymore. The air turned icy, as if hell had blown straight into that room. The lights flickered wildly, and every time they went out, I swore I saw something moving in the dark corners of the hall. Dark shapes crawling on the walls, creeping closer every second. Father Michael grabbed Madison by the shoulders, trying to hold her. But she was too strong, much stronger than a girl our age should be. "Get out of here!" one of the nuns shouted, pulling the younger girls back. But I couldn't move. My feet were glued to the floor, as if the shadows around me had roots holding me there. Madison, no, Agatha, saw the crucifix in the priest's hand and let out a growl. Her voice came out distorted, as if it was being crushed by something larger. "This won't stop me, priest. She called me, and I came." Father Michael was sweating, but his voice didn't tremble. "Who called you? Madison? What did she do?" Agatha laughed again, and this time I felt the sound inside my chest, as if something was scratching from inside my ribs. It wasn't her. It was her mother. Her house is full of me. And now this girl is too. That's when Madison started to contort. Her body bent in ways bones shouldn't bend, her mouth opening until it tore at the corners. A scream came out of her, but it wasn't human. It was as if 100 voices were screaming at the same time. The windows trembled. The stained glass seemed about to shatter. One of the older nuns, Sister Maria, advanced with a rosary in her hand. "In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, leave this child alone." She threw holy water on Madison, and the reaction was instant. Her skin started to smoke. Madison screamed, but it was a sound of pain now, as if she was burning from the inside. She fell to the floor, writhing, and for a second her eyes returned to normal, full of fear, of confusion. "Help me," she cried, and that voice was hers again, fragile, scared. But it only lasted a moment. Something dark passed over her face, and suddenly, Agatha was back. She stood up in a jerky movement, her head turning to the priest like a broken doll. "You want to expel me, priest? Try." That's when Father Michael looked back at one of the nuns and said 2 words I'll never forget. "Bring the whip." I didn't know what he was talking about, but the older nuns exchanged glances, and one of them ran out. The rest of us stayed there, pressed against the walls, watching Madison, Agatha laugh at us, as if it was all a joke. And then the lights went out for good. In the dark, I only heard a whisper in my ear, so close it seemed to come from inside my own head. "You're next." When the lights came back on, Madison was on the floor, unconscious, and Father Michael held something in his hand, an ancient whip of worn leather with carved symbols I had never seen before. But the worst wasn't the whip, it was what I saw behind him, hovering in the air like thick smoke, and smiling. That smile in the air was the devil's work. I knew it even though I had never seen hell. Father Michael advanced with the whip, but it wasn't a movement of violence. It was ritualistic, calculated. The leather cracked in the air, and Madison, or whatever was inside her, screamed as if she had been stabbed. The voice that came out of her was pure hatred, but now with fear. "You don't rule here, priest. This flesh is already marked." The second blow came, and this time I swore I saw something come out of Madison, a dark, sticky shadow that writhed in the air before dissolving. Madison fell to her knees, panting, and when she lifted her face, her eyes were normal. Full of tears, but human. The silence that fell over the hall was heavy. Even our breathing echoed. Father Michael held Madison by the shoulders and whispered something, a name. "Agatha, go in peace." And then, it was as if the air had been sucked out of the room. The candles went out at once, the windows trembled, and for a second, I felt something pass through me. A cold that went to the bones. Then, nothing. Just Madison, crying on the floor, and Father Michael panting as if he had physically fought something. The next day, Madison didn't remember anything. Not the voices, not the priest, not the whip. The nuns said she had had a nervous breakdown, but we knew the truth. That night, no one slept. We all huddled in the same room, listening to every creak, every sound in the corridor, waiting for that voice to return. The retreat ended, but the fear did not. To this day, when I pass by that church, I feel a shiver. And if I close my eyes, I still see that smile in the dark, reminding me that some doors once opened never closed properly, and that Agatha is still out there, waiting. What a scare. I really want to know what you thought of the story. What rating from 0 to 10 would you give it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And look, after experiencing a scene like that inside a school, you start to understand that not even our home is truly a safe place. And that's exactly what you're going to see now. A dark presence that simply wouldn't leave this family alone. I was about 8 or 9 years old, and to this day I remember the smell of that room, a mix of waxed wood and old bedding. I shared the room with my dad because our house in San Pedro was small, and I loved the routine of sleeping next to him, feeling safe. Until one night, everything changed. It was one of those silences that seemed to scream. I woke up in the middle of the night with that chill down my spine, that alert that something wasn't right. And when I turned to the slightly open bedroom door, I saw her. A short hooded figure standing in the hallway. The hood was dark, but what froze my blood was the face, or the lack of it. There was only darkness where a face should have been. I was paralyzed. I couldn't even blink. It was as if that thing was sucking the air out of the room, making everything heavy. I tried to scream, to call my dad, but my voice was gone. And then, it moved. It didn't walk. No, it was more like it glided, floating a few inches above the ground. My heart was beating so hard I swore it could hear me. That's when my mom walked down the hallway going to the bathroom. She bumped right into the figure and saw nothing. She just kept walking as if that evil presence didn't exist. And that's when I understood. It only wanted me. In the following months, it came back. Always in the middle of the night. Always in that dimly lit hallway. Sometimes it appeared without the hood, and that was worse. It had a twisted face, wrinkled skin like an orc, deep eyes that gleamed in the dark. And always when it appeared, I felt that negative energy, as if the air was filled with something rotten. One night it went beyond just watching me. I was almost asleep when I felt the hand, a thin icy claw closing around my ankle and pulling. It was so fast, so real that I kicked the air, screaming softly, and my dad even stirred in the bed next to me. When I looked at the floor, there was nothing, but I knew it had been there. Until one of those nights, fear turned into anger. I was tired of it, of that feeling of being hunted in my own room. So, when I saw the hooded figure standing in the hallway again, I reacted. I grabbed the first thing I saw, a heavy book, and threw it with all the strength a scared boy could muster. The figure disappeared. The book hit the wall and fell to the floor with a thud, and my dad woke up startled. "What was that?" he asked, still groggy. I just mumbled something about a nightmare, but I knew it was more than that. The next day I started praying, every night without fail, and for a while it stopped appearing. But that was just the beginning, because years later, I found out that a friend of mine, who lived just a few blocks away, had seen the exact same figure. And then I wondered, how many other people in San Pedro had faced that demonic presence in the dark? The prayers worked for a while. Months went by without the hooded figure appearing, and I started to think I had finally gotten rid of it. But some things, they don't go away that easily. It was on a summer night when the air in San Pedro was heavy and humid that it came back. This time, different. I was about 10 years old and my dad had moved rooms, so I slept alone. The house was quiet, only the distant sound of a dog barking on the street. And that's when I felt that chill on the back of my neck again, that tightness in my chest. Even before I opened my eyes, I knew it was there. This time, not in the hallway, inside the room. When I forced myself to look, I saw the silhouette crouched in the corner near the wardrobe. The hood covered its face, but the eyes, this time they glowed, 2 red dots fixed on me. And the worst was what came next. A whisper. It wasn't a human voice. It was as if someone had recorded a moan and put it on playback, low and distorted. I couldn't understand the words, but the tone was clear. It was anger. I tried to scream, but the sound died in my throat. I tried to move, but my body seemed pinned to the mattress as if something was holding me down. And then, it moved. It didn't float. It didn't glide. It crawled. Like an insect, fast and awkward towards my bed. That's when I realized it didn't just want to scare me. It wanted something from me. My hands sweated as I tried to remember the prayers my grandmother had taught me. The words came out in pieces, mixed with my own panic. But when the thing got close enough for me to smell it, a sweet rotten odor like spoiled meat, something strange happened. It stopped. The red eyes blinked, and for the first time, I saw fear in them. Not fear of me. Fear of what I was saying. And then with one last hoarse whisper, it retreated. It didn't disappear. It fled, as if something bigger, something worse, was protecting me. After that, the apparitions stopped for good, but the fear never completely went away. Years later, in a drunken conversation with a childhood friend, he blurted out, "Man, do you think that house on Granada Street was haunted?" When I asked what he meant, he turned pale. I saw something when I was a kid. A small creature with a hood used to stand in the hallway of my grandma's house. My blood ran cold. He lived just 3 blocks from my old house. To this day, I don't know what that thing was. A demon, a lost spirit, something worse. All I know is that, in San Pedro back then, someone or something was hunting children, and I was lucky to escape. But sometimes when I wake up in the middle of the night and see the bedroom door slightly open, I still wonder if it will come back, and if this time the prayers won't be enough. Creepy, huh? And the worst part is that some things don't even need to appear to haunt you. Sometimes all it takes is a voice, a whisper, to make you feel like you'll never be alone again. Like in the story you're about to hear now. The silence in the house was so heavy, I could hear the tick-tock of the kitchen clock echoing through the hallways. It was around 7 p.m. The sun had already set, and I was alone, as usual. My parents had gone out for dinner, and I was thrilled, thinking I was going to have a quiet night. But then came that chill. It wasn't just any chill. It was as if someone had opened a door to hell right behind me. My skin prickled, the hairs on my arms stood up, and I really felt, that there was something there, something that shouldn't be. I stood still, not breathing, my eyes fixed on the wall in front of me. I was too scared to turn around, truly afraid that if I moved, that thing, whatever it was, would jump on me. My breath got stuck in my throat, and I swear the air got colder, as if someone was blowing on the back of my neck. That's when I heard it, a whisper, low, hoarse, masculine. "I will be waiting for you." The voice didn't come from a specific place. It was as if it had appeared inside my head, but at the same time it came from all directions. And the tone, God, the tone was wrong. It wasn't human. It sounded like something that had learned to mimic speech but couldn't hide what it really was. Something dead, something that didn't belong in this world. I didn't think twice. I ran as if the devil himself was behind me. And maybe he was. My heart was beating so hard it hurt, and my feet almost slipped on the kitchen floor as I turned into the living room. The light was on, but it didn't matter. That place didn't feel safe. Nothing felt safe. I reached the neighbor's house, pounding on the door like a madwoman. Mr. Roberto opened it with a look of someone who had just been startled, and I must have been as white as paper because he didn't even ask what was wrong. He just pulled me inside. "There's something in my house," I moaned, gripping his arm tightly. He grabbed a flashlight and went to check. He searched everywhere, even under the bed. Nothing. No sign of a break-in, no broken windows, no strange noises. "You must have heard the wind, girl," he said, but I could see in his eyes that he didn't believe it for a second. When my parents arrived, I told them everything. They exchanged that, "Here she goes again with these stories, look," and shrugged. "You're stressed, honey. It must have been a waking nightmare," my mom said, rubbing my shoulder as if that would calm me down. But I knew what I had heard. I knew what I had felt. The night went on, and I tried to sleep. I kept the light on, with the blanket up to my neck, listening to every little noise in the house. Then around 3 a.m. I woke up suddenly. The room was freezing. And then, again, the voice. "I will be waiting for you." I screamed. My parents ran in, hugged me, and said it was just a dream, that I had imagined it all. But when the sun rose and I went to get my crucifix, the one that always hung behind the door, it was on the floor, broken and covered in dried blood. My blood ran cold when I saw the crucifix on the floor. The chain was snapped in half as if someone had yanked it hard, and the blood, it wasn't fresh, but it wasn't there before either. It was old, dark, sticky. My stomach turned. "Mom! Dad!" I screamed, holding the crucifix in my trembling hand. They came running, but when they saw it, they just stood there, frozen. My dad even tried to say that maybe a rat had knocked it down, or that I had accidentally hit it myself. But the chain was broken, not loose. and the blood. None of us were hurt. My mom cleaned everything up quickly, as if she wanted to erase the evidence of what had happened. But I knew. Something had been in my room, something that had broken my crucifix and left a warning. That day was torture. I kept looking at every dark corner, expecting to see things moving where they shouldn't. Even the sound of the fan made me jump. My parents kept saying it was just my imagination, but I noticed the way they exchanged glances when they thought I wasn't looking. Night fell again, and I didn't want to sleep alone. I asked my mom to stay with me, but she just laughed nervously. "You're too old to be scared by a silly dream, aren't you?" It wasn't a dream, and I didn't feel old. I felt watched. I turned off the light and buried myself under the blanket, as if it could protect me. The room was too silent. Even the clock had stopped ticking. That's when I felt it. Someone breathing, slow, deep, beside me. My body froze. I couldn't scream, couldn't move. I could only feel the air coming from that thing, cold, against my neck. "I told you I would be waiting." The voice came again, but this time closer, as if it was lying beside me. I almost died right there. My heart felt like it was going to explode. Slowly, I managed to turn my head, looking toward where the sound was coming from. And then, I saw. It wasn't a shadow, it wasn't a figure. It was a face. Pale, almost translucent, with eyes so dark they looked like holes. And it was smiling. A wide smile, full of sharp teeth, as if it was happy I had finally turned to look. I screamed until I was hoarse. My parents ran in, turned on the light, but when they looked, there was nothing. Just me, trembling, drenched in cold sweat. This time, they didn't doubt me. They saw the terror in my eyes. My dad even grabbed a knife from the kitchen and searched the house, but he found nothing. "We're going to call a priest," my mom said, and her voice was as scared as mine. But I knew it wouldn't help, because that thing wasn't a ghost, it was worse, much worse, seriously. Hearing a voice is already terrifying, but coming face to face with something that shouldn't even exist in our world? What happened in this next story is deeply disturbing. And hey, if you've made it this far, it probably means you're enjoying the stories. So go ahead and hit that like button to let YouTube know you want more creepy content like this. I've always thought that forests have a voice. The branches whispering, the birds singing. Even the wind rustling the leaves seemed like an ancient conversation. But on that day, the forest decided to go silent. And when silence comes like that, out of nowhere, it's because something wrong is about to happen. There was me and Daniel, my childhood friend, hiking that trail near the mountain range, one we knew like the back of our hands. The sun was high, the air was fresh, and we were laughing at some nonsense, as always. Then, out of the blue, it was like someone hit the mute button. The birds stopped. The wind vanished. Even the insects, which always made that annoying buzz, disappeared. There was just that heavy emptiness, as if we had entered a soundproof room. I looked at Daniel, expecting him to make some joke, but he was standing still, eyes wide, staring at something behind me. That's when I saw it. The sky. It had turned gray. It wasn't clouds, it wasn't a storm. It was as if someone had turned off the sun and left only that dead light. The kind that doesn't illuminate anything, just makes everything stranger. And that's when Daniel fell to his knees. He didn't trip. He didn't slip. It was as if something had pushed him to the ground. He stayed there, motionless, eyes glazed, mouth open, but not making a sound. I tried to talk to him, shook his shoulder, but he didn't even blink. It was as if he was stuck in something I couldn't see. And then I felt it. That thing that makes your hair stand on end even before your brain understands the danger. Someone was watching us, not a normal someone. It was a gaze that weighed heavily, that stuck to the skin, that made the stomach turn. I didn't want to turn, didn't want to see what was there, but my neck turned on its own. And there it was, tall, very tall. So tall that my neck hurt from looking up. The figure was dark, but it wasn't just a shadow. It had an outline, a form, but it was as if the light fled from it. And the wings. God, the wings. One was just bone, white and dry, as if it had been torn from a skeleton. The other was black, rotten flesh, dripping something that wasn't blood, but made the ground sizzle where it fell. It didn't speak. It didn't need to. Its voice came straight into my head, thick, full of something that wasn't anger. It was worse. It was disgust. Disgust for us, for the world, for everything. And then it commanded, "Look at me." And I looked. Its eyes were deep, colorless, but I knew it was staring at me. And worse, it knew me. I don't know how, I don't know why, but that thing knew things about me that even I didn't know. Its mouth didn't move, but the words entered my mind like knives. "You already belong to me, and I've come to collect." The air left my lungs. My legs buckled on their own, and before I knew it, I was on my knees, just like Daniel. It wasn't fear. It was something stronger, something that forced my body to bow. Then it smiled. Or at least I think it smiled, because its face wasn't really a face, but I felt the smile, and it was the most horrible thing I've ever experienced. "See you later," it said. And then, poof, it was gone. The sun came back. The birds started singing. Daniel gasped, as if he had been holding his breath for minutes, and looked at me, confused. What was that?" he asked. I didn't answer, because when I stood up, I saw that the trees around us were all dead. Twisted branches, black leaves, and the ground. The ground was cracked as if something had sucked the life out of it. And I knew. It hadn't really gone away. It was just waiting, and one day, it would come back. Daniel kept looking at me, waiting for an answer I didn't have. "What was that?" he repeated, his voice still trembling. I opened my mouth, but the words didn't come out. How do you explain the inexplicable? How do you say that we had just encountered something not of this world? Something that apparently had known me for a long time. We walked back in silence. The way back, which had been familiar before, now seemed strange, as if the trees had rearranged themselves while we weren't looking. Daniel tried to talk about other things. Work, his team, anything to pretend that none of it had happened. But I could see it in his eyes. He was as scared as I was. He just didn't want to admit it. When I got home, I took a long shower, scrubbing my skin as if I could wash off that feeling of invisible dirt. But it didn't work. The smell of rot, of old flesh, was still in my nose. And the worst part? That smile. The damned smile that wasn't a smile, but that I felt as if it had been branded into my mind. That night, the nightmares began. I saw it everywhere. In my dreams, it had no form. It was just a dark mass. But I knew it was him, and it always said the same thing. "You owe me, and I've come to collect." I woke up sweating, my heart beating as if it wanted to escape my chest. I looked at the clock, 3:17 a.m., the same time every night. And then, when I turned to the side, it was there. Not whole, not like in the forest. It was just a shadow in the corner of the room, standing, watching. I froze. I couldn't scream. I couldn't breathe. It didn't do anything. It just stayed there, observing me, until the first ray of sunlight came through the window. Then it disappeared. The next day I went looking for answers. Church, spiritist center, even a guy who claimed to be a medium. No one took me seriously, until I mentioned the wings. Then the medium turned pale. "One of bone, the other of rotten flesh?" he asked, his voice thin. I nodded. He closed his eyes as if he already knew what I was going to say next. "It's one of the Qliphoth," he said, as if that explained anything. "A fallen angel, but not one of those who rebelled, one of those who fell because they were cast out." "What does it want with me?" My voice came out as a whisper. The medium looked at me with a mix of pity and fear. "It doesn't want anything. It just came to remind you that you already belong to it." And before I could ask more, he stood up and kicked me out of the place, as if I had brought something bad inside. That night the shadow returned, but this time it came closer, and it brought a gift. On my chest a mark began to burn. When I looked in the mirror, I saw 3 red lines, like scratches, forming something that looked like a symbol. And then, for the first time since the forest, I heard it for real. Almost time, and I understood. It wasn't haunting me, it was preparing me. The burn on my chest wouldn't heal. The 3 red cuts looked fresh, as if someone renewed them every night. And every night it came, always closer, always more real, until the 7th day arrived. I woke up with the room freezing, my breath forming clouds in the air. Something was wrong, more wrong than usual. The shadow wasn't in the corner. It was on top of me, its deep eyes piercing me in the dark. This time I could see details, the pieces of flesh rotting on the right wing, the bones of the left one creaking like dry branches. Its smell filled the room, sweet and rotten at the same time. It's time, its voice echoed inside my skull. My hands moved on their own, tearing off my shirt. The mark on my chest now glowed, red like an ember. And then, it touched me. The pain was so intense that I couldn't even scream. It was as if my blood was turning to fire, my bones being twisted from the inside. Through the haze of agony, I saw its mouth opening, not to speak, but to suck. Something was coming out of me, something that wasn't blood or flesh, but hurt as if it were my very soul being torn out. And then, a scream. But it wasn't mine. It was his. The creature recoiled suddenly, its wings writhing as if they had been burned. Something, or someone, was holding its neck from behind. A white figure, luminous, faceless, but with a presence that made the air vibrate. "She is not yours," the white thing whispered, and its voice was like 1,000 bells ringing in the distance. The demon growled, but there was real fear in it now. Genuine fear. With one last hateful look at me, it disappeared in a whirlwind of shadows. The white light turned to me. For an instant, I felt such great peace that I almost cried. "You were marked, but you are not lost." The voice sounded like a comfort. "It lied, you owe nothing. It just wanted to scare you to get you." And then, like a breath, the light was gone. The mark on my chest disappeared. But one thing remained, the knowledge that hell is real, and that some things out there don't give up easily. Daniel says I should move away, disappear, start over. But we know the truth. It's still out there, waiting. And a fallen angel doesn't forget a debt, even if it never existed. How bizarre. Did you like this story? What rating from 0 to 10 would you give it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I've always sensed things that others didn't notice. Since I was a child, I've seen shadows, heard whispers when no one was around. But nothing prepared me for what happened in that apartment. It all started with a strange heat. Not the kind of heat that comes from the weather, you know. It was as if someone had lit a fire right under my bed. I would wake up in the middle of the night sweating, with the sheets stuck to my body and that feeling that something was wrong. But the worst part wasn't just the heat. Sometimes when I left my feet out of the bed, I felt as if something was running its hand over them. A cold, almost electric touch that crept up my legs and made my skin crawl. And then there were the sounds. Oh, the sounds were the worst. Dragging noises as if someone was crawling across the bedroom floor. But when I turned on the light, there was nothing. One night I swear I felt someone sitting on the edge of my bed. The mattress sank as if a weight had settled there. My heart raced, but I couldn't move. It was as if something was holding me, forcing me to stay still. And then, I felt a breath on my neck. Warm, heavy, as if someone was breathing very close to my skin. I couldn't take it anymore. The next day, I started looking for another place to live. I thought that if I moved, all of that would stop. But I was wrong. The new apartment was more modern, brighter, and for a while I even managed to sleep peacefully. But it didn't last. On the 3rd night, I woke up with the bed shaking. It wasn't a weak tremor. It was as if someone was shaking the mattress hard, trying to throw me to the floor. And then, I felt it. Someone or something climbed on top of me. I couldn't see anything, but I felt the weight. It was as if an invisible body was lying on top of mine, pressing on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I tried to scream, but my voice wouldn't come out. I tried to struggle, but my arms seemed to be held by some force I didn't understand. That's when my boyfriend, who was sleeping beside me, woke up startled. He looked at me and asked what was happening. I couldn't answer, but he felt it too. He said later that he saw a shadow moving quickly, getting off me and disappearing into the corner of the room. That's when I realized it wasn't just my imagination. Something was with me, and worse. It seemed like that thing wasn't going away anytime soon. After that night, my boyfriend changed. He didn't talk much, but I saw the fear in his eyes. We tried to pretend that nothing had happened, but every time we lay down, the atmosphere became heavy. We slept with the light on, with the TV sound on, anything to disguise the silence that seemed to hide something. But it didn't work. A week later, I started having nightmares. They weren't ordinary dreams. They were vivid, as if I were awake inside them. Always the same, a dark room, a figure standing in the corner watching me. And then, it would come to me. I couldn't see its face, but I felt a strange attraction. It was as if that thing wanted me to come closer, to trust it. And the worst part? In the dream, I almost always gave in. I would wake up with my heart beating fast, ashamed, as if I had done something wrong. And always there was that feeling that someone had just left my side. The bed still warm, the pillow slightly indented, as if someone had been there seconds before. My boyfriend started waking up scared too. He didn't want to tell me, but one night he finally confessed. He dreamed that something was on top of him, suffocating him. And in the dream, this thing whispered in his ear, about me. It said bad things, as if it wanted to keep him away from me. That's when I decided to seek help. Not a psychologist, not a doctor. Someone who understood what I was really dealing with. I found a demonologist. Yes, a guy who studies demons, possessions, that kind of thing. He listened to my whole story, without laughing, without doubting. And then he gave me the diagnosis. From what you describe, this is not a common spirit. It's an incubus, or a succubus. I had heard about these things in movies, but I never imagined they were real. He explained that these entities feed on energy, on emotions, and that they have a special interest in relationships. They are like emotional parasites, he said, and it seems like this one has targeted you. He advised me to see a priest, use holy water in the room, pray before sleeping. I did everything, and for a few days, it worked. I slept better, no nightmares, no feeling of being watched. But I should have realized it was just a truce, because one night my boyfriend woke up screaming. He was sweating, trembling, and when I asked what had happened, he looked at me with a mix of fear and disgust. I dreamed about you, he said, his voice choked. But it wasn't you, it was her, and she was telling me to leave. That's when I realized that thing wasn't just tormenting me, it was trying to separate us. After that night, my boyfriend started to distance himself. He didn't talk about the dream properly, but I saw the way he looked at me, as if he was disgusted, as if I were something impure. And every time he slept at my house, the thing attacked more strongly. Scratches appeared on his body. He woke up with finger marks on his neck. But when he spent the night away, everything stopped. I knew what that thing wanted. The priest came to bless the apartment, threw holy water in every corner, prayed until he was hoarse. But when he reached my bedroom, the candle he was carrying went out by itself. He was quiet for a second, then looked at me seriously and said, "There's something very strong here, and it won't go away easily." That chilled me. That night, I decided to face the thing on my own terms. I lay in bed and closed my eyes, but I didn't pray. I didn't scream. I just spoke, softly. "If you want my attention so much, then come. Show me who you are." The room became icy in an instant. That infernal heat disappeared, replaced by a cold that burned. And then, I felt it. Someone lying down beside me. The bed sank, the mattress creaked, and a weight came over me slowly. This time I didn't fight. In my ear, a hoarse whisper, almost affectionate, "Finally." And then came the dream. This time I was in a room that looked like mine, but different, darker, heavier. And she was there. It wasn't a shadow. It wasn't a figure. It was a woman, beautiful in a way that hurt, with eyes that seemed to catch fire. She came to me, ran her hand over my face, and I couldn't move. "You don't need him," she said, with a voice that echoed in my head. "You have me." And in the dream, I almost believed her. I woke up with my face wet with tears, feeling dirty, ashamed. But worse than everything was the certainty. That wasn't just a nightmare. It was an invitation. And if I gave in again, she would never leave. The next day, my boyfriend broke up with me. He said he couldn't take it anymore, that it was destroying him. And I understood. Maybe it was the only way. Months later, I moved to another city. I never felt the strange heat again, nor heard footsteps in the room. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, I still wake up with a chill down my spine, because I know she's still out there. And maybe, just maybe, she's still waiting. Look, if you're still with me, that means you love these kinds of stories just as much as I do. So go ahead and subscribe. There are always more chilling tales of demonic encounters on the way. And if you made it to the end, drop the word exorcism in the comments so I know you're one of us. Oh, and of course, leave a like. After everything we've been through together in this video, I think it's safe to say we've got a bit of a connection now, huh? And hey, there's another video right here that's basically a continuation of this creepy vibe. Click it and come with me. Let's get scared together some more.